Yes, yes. Yes, yes, yes. Welcome in. It's Balloon Party, driven by Mulligan S. St. Louis Acura and Alton Toyota here on 101 ESPN. Timothy, Michael, McKernan, Action Jackson with you for 1 hour.
But a great hour nonetheless.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. You can watch us on YouTube, youtube.com/101 ESPN. Is that where it is?
Yeah. If you just go on youtube.com, type in 101 ESPN, it'll pop right up.
So I'm giving out an inaccurate address then.
I think you're giving out an accurate address. I think the way I am giving it out is easier. I think it's actually easier to do it the way I'm saying.
Really? Because I'll type in youtube.com/TMASTL and it takes me right to it. But I did that with 101 ESPN. I felt like it took me to like a burner page or something like that. Like a dog avatar with a flag and a scripture reading.
Right, which is always great. I'll ask you a question.
I'll take questions.
Sure. When you're surfing the World Wide Web, do you go into the actual URL box and type out www? Or
Brazzers.com?
Right, of course. That was without saying. Or do you go like to a search engine like Google and type it into the search engine? Because I can't remember the last time I actually went to like a URL and typed out like a website's name.
Yeah, I think I type out the website's names. Oh, you do Google? That's interesting.
I also bookmark anything I need to use every day and then go from there. But yeah, I'm almost always search engine, and then it auto-populates, so it saves like your most recent
That's what
searches.
you're saying. Yeah. Balloon Dudes. That's from the 3 and 4, and that's where the text starts and stops.
Hello, everybody.
We have Jackson's Half and Half today, which is presented by the Angry Beaver. Jackson's questions are now sponsored, Angry Beaver, and you mentioned a balloon party. You can get $5 off at Angry Beaver.
Yep, just by mentioning Piddles, $5 off any pizza.
Sick. And then we'll take your deep dive request today here on a Wednesday, 314-399-9646. I'm in the mood for a good deep dive.
Me too.
But I know we have the Half and Half, too, presented by the Angry Beaver, so let's get right to it. Let's go!
Let's do it. Let's do the Will Piddles half and half. Of course, half relevant Cardinal questions, and then half of some sports business, maybe just some ideas.
Well, I mean, it's your poll. You would know what's in there.
Oh, I know what's in there, baby. Okay. And we're going to start out with this. Katie Wu tweeted yesterday the Cardinals are working on an extension for reliever Jordan Hicks. This is taking fans and pundits by surprise. What do you make of this move? Does it make sense to you, Tim?
I approach this with some semblance of skepticism, and allow me to explain.
I absolutely love it. I'm so teased at the moment. I'm literally on the edge of my seat. I'm standing up. I'm so excited.
I thought you were distracted, and then you were going to acknowledge you started thinking about KD or something like that.
Well, KD never loses my mind. He's one of the most unique scoring weapons this game has ever seen. Right. But the key is, I think in 2012's The Avengers, Mark Ruffalo, who plays the Incredible Hulk, says, they ask him, like, how do you contain, like, the Hulk? And he goes, that's the thing, is I'm always mad. That's the thing about me. I'm always distracted.
Wow. Okay.
So I've learned to operate.
Omni-distracted.
Yeah.
The Cardinal organization, specifically in John Mozeliak's era, but I can think back to when Walt Jocketty was the general manager, and I would break stories, which really is like kind of a zero upside thing.
Yeah, unless you're like one of the guys who Adam Schefter.
It's not like KMOV would go, here's your check for $10,000. You got that one, Right. But if you're wrong, it lives with you forever.
Right.
So I kind of have gone, that's a waste of time. So the Cardinals pride themselves on no leaks. So it's odd to me that in a series of 4 hours, we had the one that I believe is coming with question number 2 of the Angry Beaver, Lil Piddles Half and Half Tyler O'Neill thing. But at around 5 o'clock or so yesterday, you had the Jordan Hicks extension thing. So therefore, I am obligated, because you call this program Honesty in Media,
amongst other titles, yeah,
to tell you that it strikes me as a surprising report, because it's 5-6 days before the trade deadline. Jordan Hicks being one of the most talked about trade pieces for the Cardinals. There being a shortage of relievers out there that buyers would be able to acquire. And therefore, the skeptic in me says the Cardinals are getting that report out there to try to get somebody off the dime and have them put in the final piece to a trade puzzle that would get the Cardinals to move Hicks. That is my read.
Right. So if we were to apply that theory to an actual situation, name any baseball franchise you want, isn't interested in Jordan Hicks, but are kind of, sitting on their hands a little bit, maybe not being as fast as the Cardinals want, maybe not agreeing to some of the terms the Cardinals want. So the Cardinals put out, hey, we're thinking of signing Jordan Hicks to a multi-year extension. That might force a team's hand or be the catalyst in the move.
That is correct.
Okay. Yeah. And I think that makes sense, because you're right. The Cardinals they do take a lot of pride in no leaks, staying in the room. So for this to just be like so readily available for any reporter, it doesn't matter who the reporter is, for any reporter, it would strike me as not odd necessarily, but not a move the Cardinals would make.
But listen, it's not like I know that. It's inconsistent with the manner with which this era of the organization has done business. Mm-hmm. Derek Gould of the Post-Dispatch asked John Mozeliak about Katie Woo's report with The Athletic, for those of you who have not had a chance to read it, regarding Tyler O'Neill. And he answered in a, relatively speaking, unique way. And he said he wasn't going to comment on it, but that there's a lot of falsities out there.
Yeah, that's a answer without really giving an answer.
Right.
That's extremely vague.
Right now, there's a lot of speculation, some truths, some falsities. I got to be honest with you. I'm an educated man, as you know. I mean, I went to a Jesuit high school.
Right.
And I had to make sure that falsities was a word.
And it is?
It is.
Yeah.
Some truths, some falsities. It puts me in an awkward position to have to respond to all of it. The Athletic report from Katie Woo reported that a deal could be finalized within the next day. This came yesterday, so we got about 7 more hours for the 24-hour period.
Yeah. I want to start answering any question from my boss, superiors, anybody with there's a lot of truths out there, there's a lot of falsities. It puts me in a tough spot to answer questions.
God, you can't go wrong with that.
Literally, you cannot. You can't lose.
Because it's accurate.
You don't have to. You're not having to answer any questions. You're not saying really anything. You're just kind of complaining, and I really like that, and I'm going to start using it.
So outside of the report coming at an odd time and an odd strategy, but maybe the Cardinals go, hey, the strategy we've been using hasn't been working, so let's use new strategies. Just Jordan Hicks right now. Mm-hmm. Outstanding.
Yeah.
But Jordan Hicks, how would you grade his last, 4 years? You wouldn't grade it outstanding.
You see.
And so much of it is because of health. And so from that standpoint, it would surprise me, if we're looking at this big picture, and I realize you got to have the bullpen has been the problem. The Cardinals lead the league in blown saves. Did you see the Derek Gould tweet about blown saves? The Cardinals would be in first place without all the blown saves. I understand that, but Jordan Hicks in a year, Jordan Hicks in 2 years, do you believe that you're going to get Jordan Hicks of July 2023? And if you do, then I would understand it. But this is just, there's just a couple of things that strike me as tells to this that just make me think that this is a move to get another team to throw in somebody the Cardinals want to complete a deal, and then perhaps they view Jordan Hicks as the first domino for the trade deadline, and then they move on to Montgomery or Flaherty. Yeah. Or then they move on to, okay, we know we got pitching in exchange for Hicks. Now let's sign Montgomery or Flaherty. Maybe that's what the play is.
Could be.
And I might be just going straight up conspiracy, and I may be off the mark. Nobody's told me a damn thing. You think anybody tells me anything? Nobody tells me anything. Nobody tells me a thing.
I'll tell you something.
What are you going to tell me?
When looking at this from like a big picture standpoint, like you were just saying.
So you're not telling me anything. You're just going to say a bunch of words here. It's like I'm talking to Quinn Snyder again.
Right. Well, this is just going back to the Mozeliak thing. I'm going to talk a lot, but you might not actually get anything out of it. I think this might have some substance to it.
Okay.
When you look at it from that big picture that you were talking about, it seems to me that the Cardinals are extremely optimistic when it comes to player evaluation. Like they want Jordan Hicks from July of 2023 to be Jordan Hicks forever. They want Tyler O'Neill from 2018.
2021.
Yeah, 2020, I'm sorry. Jack Flaherty from 2019. Tyler O'Neill from 2021 to be Tyler O'Neill forever. Jack Flaherty from 2019 to be Jack Flaherty forever. The 2011 and 06 teams who weren't in great positions to be that kind of standard when it most likely, as we've talked about, can be an outlier. And so they're super optimistic, and I think sometimes that can kind of cloud their judgment on a player because they do have some evidence that they can be great, but they also have a lot of evidence that they are not that great.
I know you did say a lot, but I was able to extract from that knowledge.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. I do think in a weird way, let me put it this way. I think people will be able to follow me here. Had the 2004 Cardinals been the one to win the World Series and not the 2006 or 2011 Cardinals, it probably would have been better for the Cardinals over the last decade. And my reason being, the 2004 Cardinals were dominant throughout the regular season, won 105 games, and then logic would dictate that would be the team that won the World Series. But instead, that team lost Chris Carpenter in September and was swept by the Red Sox and had to battle through 7 games and come back from down 3-2 against the Astros in order to win the National League pennant. Whereas you had mathematical outliers in 2006 and 2011 win the World Series, which I think have given, and understandably so, I'm not saying it's misguided, but I think mathematically it's faulty, the organization a belief perhaps that the probability of the unlikely is higher than it actually is. And so I think that is why they were perhaps stagnant in 16, 17, and 18, and 21, by the way. All due respect to John Lester and Jay Happ, that the Cardinals now are kind of reaping what they sow, and that was inactivity. So from that standpoint, I think the fact that you go, well, you always have a chance. Look at 2006 and 2011 has been somewhat counterproductive at trade deadlines because they view the long shot coming in to be more likely than in reality it is. But the truth is their 2 world championships came from 2 of their more unlikely teams as of, say, mid-August of those respective years.
Yeah, and that runs parallel to their player evaluation and sometimes their moves, I think.
It is 10:13 in St. Louis. You're welcome to give your thoughts. 314-399-9646. You're welcome to watch on YouTube. We have the Lil Piddles Half and Half presented by Angry Beaver. Tell the people at Angry Beaver about Piddles, and it gets you $5 off a pizza at Angry Beaver down by Busch Stadium. Cardinals and Cubs opening up a 4-game series before the Cardinals. Before that, the Cardinals take on the Diamondbacks tonight in the rubber match of the 3-game series. Steven Matz is just dealing now, Jackson.
For real.
All right, so that and your deep dive requests are welcome in the Air Comfort Service. Text line 314-399-9646. You are listening to Balloon Party, driven by Munganess, St. Louis Acura, and Alton Toyota on 101 ESPN. Welcome back. This is Balloon Party, driven by Munganess, St. Louis Acura, and Alton Toyota on 101 ESPN and on YouTube. Tim McKernan, Action Jackson with you. And this is our second segment. We are in the midst of the Lil Piddles Half and Half, presented by Angry Beaver. You are welcome to text in 314-399-9646, Air Comfort Service text line, and participate in the conversation in the YouTube chat room. Jackson, do you get in that YouTube chat room and talk it over with the people?
Sometimes in the break, I don't talk it over with the people, but I see what they're saying.
Talk it over with the people.
I feel like I can do that right here, kind of into this microphone. Okay. If anyone has any questions, deep dive requests are usually for Tim, but I can go deep.
I'll take deep dive questions. You can text those in. Tim, what the 2006 and 2011 teams did was made the front office create the famous slogan and company model of let's just get in the playoffs and see what happens, which has worked in the past when the division has been horrible, but now everyone else has caught up with you, and that no longer works. That's from the 314. I kind of agree with that. I think the thing about the division being horrible is a bit of a... I don't know. It's somewhat. I think calling it prisoner of the moment comes with a really negative connotation, which I'm not trying to say. But the best teams in the National League from 2011 through 2016 were from the National League Central, because the Cardinals were either in the World Series or in the NLCS in all those years, or the Cubs were in the NLCS.
Yeah. Giants maybe would be in there, but yeah.
Right. And so what I'm trying to say is, yes, it's been garbage the last few years, and I get that. But from 2000 through 2022, it wasn't necessarily that way year in and year out. It kind of comes and goes. To apply it to college football, not that anybody's necessarily looking for that, but one of the criticisms of Missouri's two best years as well, when Missouri won the Big 12 North, the Big 12 was the Big 12 North was down, and when Missouri won the SEC East, Georgia and Tennessee and Florida were down. They were the Blue Bloods when the Blue Bloods are down. So it can kind of give you a misguided perception that the National League Central is hideous. I mean, in 2013, when the Cardinals won the National League pennant, if memory serves, the Pirates and the Cubs were both damn good teams. The Cardinals had to beat Garrett Cole and the Pirates in Game 5 to go to the NLCS and then beat the Dodgers. In 2015, the Cardinals won 100 games. Maybe that was the year the Pirates and the Cubs both won 97.
The Pirates were really good in 15. I remember that.
Okay, well, they had to be good in 13, too, because the Cardinals played them in the NLDS. And you had 3 teams from the National League Central in there. My point being, I agree with the first part of it is I think 2006 and 2011 created that let's just get in, and then it's a crapshoot. The thing is, I actually agree with it's a crapshoot, which is why personally I would prefer a smaller field in the postseason. I also know that when I'm saying that there's no way in the world that's going to happen because it reduces the top line revenue, and no business is going to do that unless they somehow subtract an even greater total from their expenses, and that isn't going to happen. So with that said, we have what we have, but that is why the regular seasons don't intrigue me as much as they used to, because you can have an incredible regular season and then lose a best of 3 like we saw last year, and in 48 hours your season is over. And I don't think people necessarily remember the 2022 season, for the most part, as being as great as what the 2022 season was. I think Ali Marmol and the Cardinals have a hell of a lot more equity if Ryan Helsley holds on to Game 1 and the Cardinals win Game 2 or 3 against the Phillies, and at the very least they're in the NLDS, if not the NLCS. But because they lost in a matter of 24, 48 hours against the Phillies, a lot of the goodwill from not just that team's success, but what went on with the second half of that season with Albert Pujols has been lost. And so I think that plays a big part in it. And understandably so, because the Cardinals have not won a playoff series since, Jackson?
Not won a playoff series since 2019.
Well, that's correct, Atlanta Braves.
Yep. That was
and maybe it would have been better if they lost that one, because Randy Arosarena's Instagram stream probably wouldn't have been activated.
Yeah, and they had such a good series against the Nationals.
That's right. It was magical.
Done in 48 hours. It felt like it was done 12 hours against the Nationals.
Not a lot of offense.
Yeah, what I would say on the just get in, I think it's like a good mantra to have, and I wouldn't be surprised if many teams have that mantra of like, let's just get in, but it shouldn't shape the way that your front office makes baseball moves. I think that the idea for a team like, hey, we're going to play this regular season to get into the playoffs is correct. I think saying like, oh, we're going to build a team that can just get in would be incorrect.
Tim and Rich Kid.
Woo!
I feel like there's a major disconnect from traditional St. Louis media with Mizzou sports. Why has St. Louis media not adopted Mizzou sports? We don't have our NFL team and no NBA team. You would think Mizzou would be the next best thing. That's from the 314. I like this. I don't know how much interest there is in this question, so unless this really causes a great deal of engagement, which I don't think it will, and this is coming from somebody who, if you gave me a choice of the next championship I could experience as a St. Louis sports fan, it would be Missouri college football, without question, by the way, and somebody who went to Missouri. For whatever reason, there just isn't a whole lot of interest relative to what you would think, relative to the other states in which SEC schools reside. Kerry Davis always said he wanted to experience TMA, so he came into the studios last week and we BS'd about it. And he goes, and I asked him about that. Maybe one of the texters wanted me to ask him about it, but I was curious what he said. Because, you have Illinois and Missouri, Big Ten and SEC representing right here in the St. Louis area. Anybody who's ever lived in Kansas City would, I think, agree that college sports are bigger in Kansas City than they are in St. Louis. And my premise has been because up until 2012, you had K-State, KU, and Missouri, all of their alumni and all in the same conference. Here you may have alumni from Missouri and Illinois, and of course St. Louis U, but you don't have football, and football now rules things. And they're in different conferences. But Kerry's thing was this: win. The thing is, in 2007 and 2013, and to a lesser extent 2008 and 2014, even when Missouri was in the mix for the Big 12 and the SEC championships, I found, and I was doing the show then, so it's not like this is coming at it from, I wasn't doing it then, that the interest level wasn't as much as you would expect. And I don't know what can change that outside of the obvious of actually winning. I don't know if they would have beaten Auburn and then beaten Florida State if they would still have the equity. I really did. This might sound minor, but I think it matters. I think 11 o'clock kickoffs really hurt getting people from St. Louis to go down to a college football game and experience big-time college football. And I realize Missouri, relative to the other SEC schools over the last 8 years, has not been big-time, but you have an SEC program playing some of the best football in college football an hour and a half to 2 hours away. But if it's an 11 o'clock kickoff, the excitement level for people to go down there, or the ability, is decreased. And I know hardcore fans hate hearing that, but I'm just telling you that's a real thing for people. So if you have success, you don't have 11 o'clock kickoffs more often than not. And you can have an incredible atmosphere. I would imagine anybody who went to the Georgia game last year, which was a night game, would tell you that was up there with damn near any Rams game they saw at the Dome.
I can confirm.
Okay, you were there.
Yeah, I'd also say just the way and it's not like an SEC problem, but I guess it is. The way SEC schedules the games, like they can tell you the game time, and you can be a week out and you don't know when the game is going to kick off.
They do have the right to do that 2 times a year. Otherwise, it's 12 days out.
Right. So, but even 12 days out is like, if we're talking about planning and you want to take your kids to the game, and then, if it is the case where it is those 2 times a year where just a couple days before the game, they're like, this game's going to kick off at 11 a.m. Well, your plans are shot if you've got to now wake your kids up at 7 in the morning, hop on Highway 70, get to the game, figure out where are you going to stay there that night. There's limited hotels. Like, I just think that style is difficult. And some people say, I'm not going to drive the 2 hours and go see Missouri. And not to mention the in-game stadium atmosphere for non-huge games like that Georgia game isn't incredible. I mean, the stadium just isn't incredible. When you look at the context of SEC atmospheres, it's certainly towards the bottom, and I'm a Missouri guy. Love Missouri with all my heart, but that's just that's the case from my experience.
Tim, force it down listeners' throats. Enough people care, and if Mizzou fans hear you covering, they will tune in. Who cares about the boomers who only tune in for the Cardinals? That's from the 314. I understand that, however, having done this now for what Jackson calls a Hall of Fame career.
25, honestly.
Yeah, I guess you could say, because I anchored my first sportscast at KOMU in Columbia. Was it September 8th of 1998?
8th or 9th, yeah.
It's one or the other.
Yeah.
It was the day that Devin West ran for like 400 yards against Rock Chalk Jayhawk, for real. I think it still may be a record. That 1998 Missouri team was legitimate. If forcing things down viewers' and listeners' throats worked, then the WNBA would be very popular based on ESPN's Twitter feed. But I would tell you that hasn't necessarily worked. So you can't make people care about something.
It's true.
You just can't. And it's not.
I try.
It's not. You do. Yeah. I mean, Jackson would have gotten us an expansion team in the NBA here in St. Louis based on his Sports Center updates, if that were the way that it worked. But listen. I would love to. On TMA, we talk about whatever the hell. And on my podcast, I talk about whatever the hell. But when I'm on this 1 hour little adventure that I do each day, it's like, okay, I know what the majority of this audience wants, and for the most part, it's Cardinals and Blues, and that is the way that it is. Now that can change, but I can also tell, going back to 2007 in particular, it really surprised me that more people weren't caught up because Missouri was number one in the country, albeit for a week, and everything was building up toward that game against Kansas in 2013. I mean, what a weird spot that you had a Cardinal World Series game, and Missouri was playing South Carolina, who finished second in the SEC East that year, the same night, and I was actually, relatively speaking, in a bad mood going to bed that night. The Cardinals won their game, but Missouri lost in overtime, a game they should have never lost to South Carolina. And I was kind of like, man, I can't believe I'm going to bed disappointed on the night the Cardinals win a World Series game to take the lead in a World Series. Not like they were down 3-0 and now it's 3-1. They went up 2-1 in the World Series. That was the Will Middlebrooks, Alan Craig interference.
Oh, yeah. I remember that one.
Game 3 at Busch Stadium.
And was the South Carolina game where the kicker doinked one off the post? And
that's correct.
That's when they lost?
Yeah, and I think they had a 4th down.
Yeah, I was in the same boat as you where I was really upset about that game. Yeah. I was really, really upset.
But had Missouri beaten Auburn, they're still playing for the national championship against Jameis is famous.
Yeah, well, we have to be able to stop Trey Mason for that to happen, Tim, and that did not.
Yeah, the jet sweep was awfully effective. So I understand. Listen, and then now the Missouri fans are activated, and that's wonderful. Let's see. Somebody said the weird thing is some Mizzou media or some media in St. Louis want Missouri to fail. I lost that text, but here it is. I would love to have Mizzou be successful, but it seems like some St. Louis media wants Mizzou to fail. And I can't speak for that. I don't know. I'll be real honest with everybody. It's not like I'm listening to I listen to podcasts and, that's kind of what I do. But so I don't know who people are thinking of when they say that, and I don't do the radio wars thing either. At this point in my career, it's just not something I'm interested in. But with that all said, I have no idea about that. I know for me, Missouri having success in college football in general, God, it would be the greatest to have a relevant year. And for the record, have you seen an over-under win total on Missouri season?
Not yet. I would assume it'd be 6.5. 6.5.
Okay, then I'm over all day.
Okay, I'd be all in on 6.5.
I'm over all day if that's the case.
I'm gonna look SEC win totals 2023. Tim, pulling it up. We do have it. The Missouri Tigers over/under win. They're doing this alphabetically, so I got 6.5. I nailed it.
Wow, great. Over. You want any action?
No, I agree with you.
Oh, okay.
I'm really high on the Tigers this year.
Wow, look at you.
Eli Drinkwitz isn't calling the plays.
But God, I love college football. I love college football.
Yeah. Kicking off here in about a month.
It's my favorite regular season that doesn't have anything to do with daily fantasy or gambling.
Really, over the NFL?
Yeah, because that has everything to do with daily fantasy and gambling. It's not like I'm like, oh, good, the Eagles are playing the Cowboys. Oh, let me build a roster of Eagles and Cowboys, and then I'll watch the game, or let me bet the under or something like that. All right, you can text in. Deep Dive's underway, 314-399-9646. We have the Angry Beaver, Little Piddles, half and half. This is Balloon Party, driven by Munganess, St. Louis Acura, and Alton Toyota on 101 ESPN. Munganess St. Louis Acura, Alton Toyota, the presenting sponsor of Balloon Party here on 101 ESPN and on YouTube, 101 ESPN. 314-252-0029 is the number you can call or text that is private for our listeners to talk with Jamie Burkhardt, Clayton Patterson, or Peter Munganess and get new cars, get used cars, get your car serviced, even if you didn't get your car from Munganess St. Louis Acura and Alton Toyota. You can go shopping right now and see the selection they have by going to stlouisacura.com or altontoyota.com and work with the company I work with my family works with, and that's Munganess St. Louis Acura. It's stlouisacura.com and at altontoyota.com, and you can call or text 314-252-0029 and work with Jamie Burkhardt, Clayton Patterson, Peter Munganess. Check out the incredible selection they have of pre-owned vehicles by going to stlouisacura.com or altontoyota.com. It is Munganess, St. Louis Acura, and Alton Toyota.
This is Action Jackson with a SportsCenter update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. The Cardinals lose last night. Final score 3-1 to the Arizona Diamondbacks. They play the rubber match today against the Diamondbacks. 2:40 first pitch. Jack Flaherty on the mound for the Cardinals. Zach Gallen on the mound for the Diamondbacks. Yesterday, WNBA action. The Las Vegas Aces at 22-2 defeated the Chicago Sky 107-95. Kelsey Plum with 27 points. That was another SportsCenter update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, an independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer.
Welcome back. This is Balloon Party, driven by Munganess, St. Louis Acura, and Alton Toyota on 101 ESPN. And we're also on YouTube. And I think we're naughty little boys.
I would agree.
Do you think we really are?
I mean, I'm trying to think, like, would there be a naughtier combination of boys than us, not only in this building but in the region? Yes. I don't think there would be. Pair of blue eyes, 4 blue eyes like these. It gets the people going.
It arouses me just thinking about it. You can observe it by going to youtube.com/101ESPN, except that isn't the address. Just type in 101 ESPN, Jackson's Council. More from the Lil Piddles half and half presented by Angry Beaver.
Woot, woot. All right, as you alluded to after my first question for the Lil Piddles half and half, the second question involves Tyler O'Neill. Katie Wu also tweeted that the Cardinals are planning...
Big day for Katie Wu, the Athletic.
Absolutely, and she's great. Katie Wu also tweeted that the Cardinals are planning to hold on to Tyler O'Neill through the deadline. What do you make of this news?
This one makes more sense to me than the Jordan Hicks one. And the reason being, in Katie's article on The Athletic, and I am an Athletic subscriber, is that the Cardinals are not getting the offers that they want for Tyler O'Neill because, understandably, his value is decreased by not playing. So I don't necessarily see this one so much as a level, like I think the Jordan Hicks one may be, level equaling bluff. So I understand it. You know, whatever. And by that, I mean, is he going to be healthy? Is he going to produce? I don't know. Yeah. There are a lot of guys who play the outfield. But how many of these guys are, getting you fired up for the future? Does Tyler O'Neill get you fired up for 2024? Probably not.
No.
But I also understand not just trading him just for the sake of trading him. Right. That makes sense to me. Jordan Hicks, you can get a haul for at this particular moment.
Yeah.
So, and if you would have asked people back in March who you've gotten more for in July, the answer would have been Tyler O'Neill.
Yeah, for sure.
But you see how things have played out over the last 3 months.
For sure. Now, does this, if they do hold on to O'Neill, wouldn't it make you think that Carlson is probably very likely to be moved, or at least be in a package deal?
Certainly, I think that from a probability standpoint, yes. But what if Paul Goldschmidt goes and then Jordan Walker goes to first base?
Yeah, then you need outfielders.
And by the way, in Derek Gould, he talked with John Mozeliak and also Paul Goldschmidt about the situation. And maybe I'm reading too much into this. You tell me. This is from the Post-Dispatch, stltoday.com. The Cardinals want to retool, not rebuild, and they're not looking to trade either of their pillars, Nolan Arenado or Paul Goldschmidt. Both veterans have no trade clauses and significant power when it comes to dictating where or the terms of any trade. Arenado has said he decided not to opt out of his contract with the Cardinals for a reason and would prefer to stay. Asked Tuesday for his view, Goldschmidt said if the Cardinals approach him about his no trade clause, that would be a, quote, private conversation.
Huh. Try to think.
Well, you don't need to try to think. I can tell you. That's if you're not going, you're not going.
Right. It wouldn't necessarily need a private conversation.
Right. So what that tells me is, my read is he'd be open to going. Now, I think it would depend on the destination.
Right.
I could be off the mark. I think he is the kind of guy who wants to play in some places and would really prefer to avoid others. And it doesn't have anything to do with the weather necessarily. I just think certain markets might not necessarily be to his liking. Or maybe he'd go to the Bronx and absolutely love it. I have no idea.
Right.
But I thought that was a surprising answer. I mean, listen, just in that paragraph, Nolan Arenado said he would prefer to stay. That's from Derek Gould. Then, to be contrasted in the very next segment, asked Tuesday for his view, Goldschmidt said if the Cardinals approach him about his no-trade clause, that would be a, quote, private conversation.
Yeah, I mean, players can be sometimes intentionally ambiguous, but when Nolan Arenado says, I want to stay, and then Paul Goldschmidt says that will need a private conversation, that ambiguity sometimes can be, you can look into that because Arenado did say, I want to stay. So you can be blunt as well.
Well, he said he would prefer to say, according to Derek, and then when Mozeliak was asked about those two guys, he said those would be private conversations. So to me, it just, I don't know, just keep an eye on that.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a portion of the fan base that just isn't expecting much to happen between now and the trade deadline. And God, if I could bet people on that. And then, by the way, that doesn't mean that I think Goldschmidt's going and, Contreras is going or anything like that. I think it's live. And by that, I mean, I think there is a chance, but that doesn't mean that because there's a chance that it is going to happen. There is an area in between those two things. But I don't think that means it is not happening. But I sure as hell expect the Cardinals to make multiple moves.
Yeah.
I also expect it to be met with a lot of, well, who the hell's this guy that they got? Because most of the guys are going to be AAA or AA players who are on the precipice of being major league pitchers. That's my expectation. I do not think they're going to sit there and hold on to people. I just don't. And I think the fact that they're, from my standpoint, doing something weird with this Hicks thing is indicative of an organization that hasn't been there before. And by that, I mean hasn't been in the seller mode before.
Sure.
And so they're doing what might be incredibly transparent bluff moves.
Yeah.
Oh, you're about to sign him, are you? Really? 5 days before the deadline, huh?
Right.
Okay, well, I'll call and see what happens.
Right.
You want to bet into me on the turn?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll call. You want to bet into me on the river? Okay, I'll call. So, or maybe they're going to lock up a guy who's had health issues when they're not comfortable locking up pitchers long term. I don't know. Maybe that's what's going on. Jackson, do you have another question for me?
Yeah, sure, Tim. I sure do. We talked earlier about Derek Gould's tweet about the bullpen, the blown saves, and where they would be.
Tell the people what the tweet said, because we can't operate on everybody being on Twitter. And from my standpoint, by the way, if you're not, good for you. I bet you're living a happier life.
Right. You're living it up on Threads. Derek Gould tweeted out last night, after yet another blown save, that the Cardinals' record, instead of 24, they had as many blown saves as the Reds, who have 15. They'd be 54 and 48. If they had 13 like the Brewers, they'd be 56 and 46.
My goodness.
If they had 12 like the Pirates, they'd be 57 and 45. And if they had 9 like the Cubs, they would be 60 and 42. Yet instead, they are 45 and 57, and 56 and 47 currently leads the division.
Yeah, they'd be a first-place team.
They would be a first. If they had the Cubs numbers, they would be kind of comfortably in first place. So my question when it comes to the bullpen, because that evidence is damning, does this strike you as a chicken and egg situation? If the starters carried their own weight, do you think the bullpen numbers would be much better? Is the bullpen a compounding issue of overuse and probably just being put in some really tough situations, or do you think the bullpen is as bad as advertised?
I think the starting pitching compounds the issues for the bullpen, but I don't think the bullpen was necessarily great in and of itself. So in other words, had the starting pitching been better, we talked about it during the offseason. We talked about it going into the start of the season with the fascination with the season hinging on Jack Flaherty, and we talked about it certainly early on in the season. If you have a starting staff that then strains your bullpen, that doesn't just impact the day the starter doesn't go deep. Mm-hmm. It impacts the next day, and then it can strain the bullpen and the health of the bullpen pitchers, and it can be a domino effect that can carry on into May, June, July. So I think that's what we've seen here. Now, taking it beyond that, Helsley not being healthy adds to it. But you can also make a case that some of the pitchers aren't healthy because they're being overused. And we saw that with pitchers over the last decade who we would see out there every day, and then all of a sudden they're out of baseball. So starting pitching and not tending to that during the offseason was the domino that led to where we are today, and I would include that in being the bullpen statistic. The bullpen statistic cannot be viewed through a vacuum. The bullpen statistic, to me, is a further indictment of the starting rotation.
I liked it. That's kind of what I was looking for because, I think that so much of it is connected. The bullpen and the starting staff are all connected.
In other words, Jackson, if the Cardinals had 3-1 or 4-1 leads in the 7th, 8th inning when the bullpen gets the ball and they're losing those games,
right,
That's different than what has actually transpired. There have been blown saves, certainly. And last night would be one of those. I mean, it was a 1-0 lead. But that's different than what the Cardinals have gotten, because how often? Because we saw the Cardinals were near the bottom of baseball with quality starts, so that tells you what the bullpen is taking over for.
Right. Right. Yeah. I think people might look at this and say like, oh, well, maybe we should consider bolstering the bullpen instead of starters. It's like, no. Get the starters taken care of. You're going to see a better bullpen.
And what I would tell you is the starters actually over the last month have improved precipitously, actually beyond the last month, as we made reference to. Steven Matz is three straight really good starts. Up until this past Saturday, Montgomery has been outstanding. One bad start doesn't damn him. And Jack Flaherty has been very good. Miles Mikolas is hot and cold, but certainly more often than not better. It was the Wainwright spot that was problematic and/or the bullpen innings that came with it. What I am saying is if you start off a season as thin as they were at the rotation, Wainwright hurt, Mikolas not right, and Flaherty wasn't great at the start of the season either, then that can strain your bullpen. And the Cardinals experienced this a few years ago and then didn't tend to the starting staff until the deadline, and it was just to eat innings. So innings pitched can be a deceptive statistic. Quality starts, to me, is more of an indictment, and if you will see that through the month of June, you will see what the Cardinals rank on quality starts. It was a monster impact on the quality of the bullpen. It's 10:49 St. Louis, one segment left in Balloon Party for today, then BK and Ferrario take over. You are listening to Munganess, St. Louis Acura, and Alton Toyota's presentation of Balloon Party on 101 ESPN. Welcome back to the final segment of Balloon Party for July 26th, 2023. Tim McKernan, Action Jackson with you here on the program that is presented to you by Munganess, St. Louis Acura, and Alton Toyota. It's where I get my cars. It's where I'd like you to get your cars as well. Secret phone number, Jackson, 314-252-0029, 314-252-0029. What do we have for the final question or questions of the Little Piddles Angry Beaver half and half?
I really like this question.
Okay.
I think it's going to take us home. The Netflix show Quarterback has seemed to be a big success.
Yeah, I've watched it.
Yeah, with everyone I know saying they really enjoy it.
I enjoy it as well. It's focused on which quarterbacks go.
Kirk Cousins,
Yes.
Patrick Mahomes,
Yes.
Marcus Mariota.
Yes.
And I think Justin Fields said he turned down the chance to do it. My first question is, did you enjoy it? And you answered, you said yes.
Yes,
I've yet to see it.
I haven't watched the whole thing, but I've watched 2 episodes.
And I really love the concept, and it's something we've talked about in the show a lot, of more behind the scenes, but still kind of on the scenes sports content, kind of similar to what F1 did and what PGA Tour's done. I think it's great stuff. What St. Louis athlete would you like to see featured in a quarterback style show? What St. Louis athlete, and give me an athlete, dead or alive, of all time that you would have loved to, for one season, had a camera attached to them the whole time.
I'm going to buy time by acting like I care what your answer is.
So genuine. Let's see. All time. Give me late 90s. Give me a camera on Dennis Rodman for...
Rodzilla.
Yeah, for about 3 months.
You want to see that Carmen Electra and see what it's doing?
I just want to see what he did after practice. You want
to see that Carmen Electra and see what it's doing?
Right. Well, and then they're skipping out to go to Vegas for a little bit. I think that'd be...
Oh, you want to see that Carmen Electra and see what it's doing?
It's amongst so many other things. Yes, I would like.
I was actually going to go from that Bulls team. I feel like it's a cliche answer, but Michael Jordan would intrigue me. Tiger Woods would intrigue me.
Yeah.
What about the local one?
The local one, so I'm thinking for the 2023, 2024
I would
year.
like a camera set up when Hull and Chase and Shanahan were hanging out together.
Yeah, that would be great. That's your all-time answer
That would be, if we can go back a few years, that would be one that would intrigue me now. These poor MFers now, every time they go out, especially here, or if you're in a smaller place where an athlete's, in the spot that the athlete is in, they don't leave their place, so they sit there and they play video games and swipe left.
Yeah, ain't that the truth?
So it's a different ball game. God, I don't know what right now. Who's right now?
Yeah, it's a tough one because who do you think would be interesting enough and give you a lot where it wouldn't be something like you're saying where it's after the game.
Wainwright this year would be intriguing because of the up and down situation.
Yeah, I think that.
I bet it's and how he's battling through that.
Pujols last year would have been a great one, or even Yadi.
Yeah.
Find out find out the Puerto Rico trip he took, all that stuff.
Just see how that basketball team.
Right. Well, yeah, got me in. Yeah, the all time I think is the better question. If you could attach a camera to anybody of all time, and I think the quarterback.
Chase Shanahan.
Yeah.
Home on Litzinger.
That'll do it for you. Yeah, I think but I like the idea of the quarterback show of and the way they're doing it with the superstar, the guy who's kind of in the middle,
agreed.
And then the guy who's fighting for his job. Mm-hmm. And I wonder where they would have put Justin Fields in that kind of, I guess maybe in the Kirk Cousins role, because that's kind of where he is.
Because then you're going, guy who hasn't proven himself, has a lot of hype.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Mariota one seems like somebody turned it down.
That's what I'm thinking. Also, non sequitur. I'm super high on Justin Fields and the Bears this year.
Oh wow, look at that!
Super high.
So if we're in that fantasy, who put the fantasy football league together last year, where we had 10 seconds to make the pick, and all hell broke when Kerry Davis filed the protest.
BK
did.
BK was the commissioner.
So if I'm ahead of you, I'm just drafting Fields.
That's funny. Maybe this is all play.
Oh, wow, meta.
Yeah. No, I actually am I have a bet right now with a couple buddies that the Bears will have more wins than the Packers this year.
Tim, what about Patty Maroon? It's a nice play.
Really nice play.
That's a nice play.
Really nice.
Somebody said Bader.
Yeah.
Let's see. Jordan Cairo. David Freeze. Yeah, Freeze probably would acknowledge that. The pre-new Freeze era. Number of answers coming in. I feel really good about my at least all-time Chase Hull Shanahan, in a big way.
Yeah.
come at me. Like, what's going to be better than that?
Right. Yeah, I'm trying to think of like another group of athletes that would like hang out, but like athletes across different sports.
These
like
early
friends.
90s Blues.
Yeah.
You're, in your mid-20s, you're gods here.
Right.
And the boys went out and enjoyed themselves.
Right. No cell phones where people could snap pictures of you, because that's the biggest thing now is why would you even put yourself in that position?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. They don't.
Right.
All right. BK and Ferrario are coming up next for Action Jackson. I'm Tim McKernan. This has been Balloon Party, driven by Munganess, St. Louis Acura, and Alton Toyota on 101 ESPN.
Hey everybody, this is Action Jackson here to talk to you about Circa Sportsbook, and there are two major contests going on right now through the football season. $14 million in guaranteed prizes. You heard me right. There's $14 million in prizes. You must register in person at Circa Sportsbook in Nevada. That's Las Vegas, Henderson, or Sparks and Reno, but weekly picks can be made through a proxy. First contest is the Circa Millions with $6 million in guaranteed prizes. It's $1,000 per entry, max 5 entries per person. You pick 5 teams against the spread every week. Winner takes home $1 million. There's also quarterly and season-long prizes. They also have the Circa Survivor with $8 million guaranteed to the winner or winners. $1,000 per entry with a maximum of 10 entries per person. You pick one team straight up every week to win. If the team loses or ties, the entry is eliminated. You can only pick each team once in a season. You go 20-0 or be the last person standing to win. If a single person wins, then they get the entire pot. If multiple people go 20-0, and if multiple people are eliminated the same week to reduce the contest to 0, they will split the pot. It's all available over at Circa Sportsbook. Sign up today.